Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for coming back. I want to start quickly off by apologizing for the lack of uploads this past week. I've had a lot of stuff going on outside of the world of YouTube, along with, I am in college, so I do have to kind of worry about that sometimes, but we are back, and I am back with the AEW review that I promised. It's going to be a little bit different, though, in the sense that I have two episodes of AEW to review, the one from this past week, and then the October 23rd edition of AEW. So the October 23rd edition I won't focus on too much. I'll just be running through it very, very quickly, just talking about some of the few highlights from the show. But before I get into that, thank you so much for tuning in again. If you've been enjoying the content I've been starting to put out, make sure to hit the like button down below, subscribe, share it with your friends. Let's get this channel growing. It'll grow slowly. Wrestling has a very loyal fan base, but it's not a huge fan base, so it'll grow slowly, but we are getting there. But yeah, let's dive straight in. We've got, start off with the October 23rd, 2019 edition of AEW Dynamite. Kicked off, first two matches on the show were the two Tag Team Championship Tournament semi-final matches. The first one was between the Private Party and the Lucha Bros, and that kicked off the show. It was an interesting, I do want to touch on this a little bit because it's an interesting way to kick off the show. There wasn't any introduction to the show, there wasn't a video package, there wasn't any pyro or announcer introduction to the show. It was just dove right into the match. The match was starting right when we hopped in, right when the show went live. The bell rang, and the teams went at it, and it was a really fun match. Very action packed, a lot of spots. It was a spot fest, but there was great psychology with the Lucha Bros. Lucha Bros are amazing. They're, Pentagon and Rey Fenix are both incredible, two of the best in the business, certainly one of the best tag teams in the world, and they fully deserve to win here and go on to the finals. If you're watching this, if you've seen both episodes of AEW, you know how the tag team final turned out. We'll get to that in its time, but again, Lucha Bros are awesome. This was a good match. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that. Lucha Bros defeated Private Party. Phoenix got the pin at the end. Then we move straight into the second tag team tournament semifinal match, SCU versus the Dark Order. As you remember, the Dark Order were the team that received the bye in the tag team tournament because they beat the Best Friends at All Out. And this was their tournament debut because they had the bye, so they didn't have to compete in the first round. And this was a really fun match. SCU were the winners of this match. I think what hurt this match is that Dark Order is very, very new to wrestling and very, very new to AEW, and the crowd doesn't really know how to receive them yet. So that did hurt the match in terms of heat, but again, it was fun. I think it was just a little bit better than the match prior between Private Party and the Lucha Bros, but all in all, two very good matches. Great way to start off AEW. And then after that, we went into Kenny Omega versus Joey Janela. This was a really fun match. This was a really great match. Kenny Omega would win the match in the end. What I liked most about this match is that Omega and Janela didn't just have to have a big smoke and mirrors, no DQ, whatever type of match. They could have a standard one-on-one wrestling match, and Janela can wrestle that type of match, and he looked good doing it. Of course, anyone that's in the ring with Kenny Omega will look good in a match. Will look good in that match, but because of Janela's ability and Omega's ability, they both worked well off each other, and the crowd was very into it. They loved both competitors, and this was the best match on the show. And it was a good way to build Kenny Omega, start rehabbing his win-loss record. He has suffered quite a few losses on his journey in AEW so far. This was a good way to get him a win and build towards his match with Moxley on November 9th at Full Gear. So yeah, this match did exactly what it needed to do to build Omega, but also was really fun and gave the crowd something to get into. I want to spend a good amount of time talking about the next segment, the Cody Rhodes and Inner Circle promo. The Inner Circle was the best part of the show. Wow, I'm sorry to be distracted, but the match is already over after 5 minutes. Actually, no, like 4. A 4-minute Hell in a Cell match that Kenny Omega won, apparently. Alright, so I'm guessing we'll put on another match in the background. Just to... So you have something to watch in the background. But yeah, there you go. Kenny Omega, the new AEW World Champion, beating Chris Jericho in a Hell in a Cell match, apparently. So, anyway, getting back to AEW Dynamite. The Inner Circle in this setting where they were in this luxury box just watching the matches happen and cheering on the teams that they won with Jericho, just looking absolutely amazing as always as the champion up there. It was awesome. I loved it. When they started just using their air horns to just distract Cody and make it so he couldn't get any word in edgewise, just a great way to build heat. Jericho is the absolute best at this. He knows what he's been doing. He knows how to build heat. He's been in the game for so long that he's good at this. And Cody's had a couple good lines in here as well. Cody talked about how he could come up to the skybox and beat up Jericho. There wasn't an invisible wall like in that other company. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There weren't any invisible walls. Cody come up there and kick Jericho's ass anytime he wanted. Now, Jericho made a big point of pointing out that it was 4-on-1. Obviously, Jake Hager was not at this edition of AEW Dynamite because he was preparing for his Bellator fight. But aside from that, Jericho called Cody a millennial bitch. Good. Only Jericho could get that line over. I don't think anybody else in the wrestling industry could make that line so over as Jericho made it. So Cody gets tired of Jericho's wisecracks, decides, you know what? I'm going to put actions behind my words and go up and beat up Jericho. So he gets ready to go up the stairs, go up to the top of the arena, and beat up Jericho. But Jericho again points out that it's 4-on-1 and there's nobody to help Cody. So then this was a very WWE-esque move. Cody's help all came out to their own music, but I loved it anyway. Dustin Rhodes came out first, looking to start evening out the numbers, and then I think one of the best moments of this entire thing, MJF comes out. Jericho says, "Oh, you think I'd be scared of a guy wearing a scarf? Who wears a scarf?" The best line of 2019, in my opinion. Jericho obviously harkening back to the fact that he always wore scarves in WWE, and even some after he left WWE. But again, MJF did get a huge pop, and obviously the scarf line was incredible. And then the fourth man come out was Diamond Dallas Page, which I loved this. Diamond Dallas Page appeared, evened out the numbers. The baby faces started going up to the luxury box. Jericho and the Inner Circle duck back into a room with a glass door, and Lockett and Cody and his friends are standing outside. Cody reaches over to MJF, asks for his scarf, wraps around his hand, and punches the door. Cody punches the door, opens it, waltzes in, and they start beating up the Inner Circle. They fight out to the concourse area, and they fight. They're finally separated by security. Jericho's facials at the end of this were absolutely on point. He had this face of just like, he looked like kind of had a face like a whiny brat, but got it over in the sense that it was cool when Jericho did it. He held up his ticket and said, "I have a ticket. I had a ticket. I could be here. I had a ticket." And it was just, everything about it was awesome. And I cannot wait for Cody and Jericho's match at Full Gear. Next up, we had the Young Bucks versus the Best Friends. I'm not going to spend barely any time on this match. It was awesome. Young Bucks defeated the Best Friends. It was a lot of fun. Orange Cassidy is awesome. I think I've heard him compared to like being sort of the R-Truth of AEW in terms of like he's just funny and is good at being like the comic relief. I would agree with that. I think this is the first time I'd ever seen anything from Orange Cassidy, and I loved every second of it. I think he's an awesome character. Can't wait to see what they do going forward. After that, we had Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter. This was just a quick showcase match for Britt Baker in her hometown. Jamie Hayter is a good character, a really interesting character. She just had not a despicable heel, but just the annoying brat that nobody likes, and everybody just wants to see get what's coming to her. And I think that'll be a really valuable character going forward. She was a perfect foil here for Britt Baker in her hometown, and this match did exactly what it needed to do. It started the build for Britt Baker's eventual rise to the AEW Women's Championship circle, I guess, contendership. She'll get there eventually. Britt Baker is a future AEW Women's Champion. She just has to be built up as such. Then we had the main event, Jon Moxley versus Pac. Before this match even got started, Pac blindsided Jon Moxley on the ramp. They fought for a while, and then finally getting into the ring, the match started. And this was a really, really fun match. There's not a problem, I guess, but you saw, like, right when the match started that they were very limited. There was only like 8-9 minutes left of TV time, and that was the stipulation for the match. The time limit draw was whatever TV time was left, and this match did end in a time limit draw. It was a really, really awesome finish. Moxley was able to deliver the paradigm shift with about 30 seconds left. The problem is he was unable to crawl into the cover. He crawled into the cover with about 8 seconds left. Referee counted 1, counted 2. Pac kicked out, and at that point there was no way that he was going to get a cover, and the match ended in a draw. Moxley was obviously not happy, and in frustration hit a paradigm shift on the official and ended the match. And that was how, not ended the match, but that was how AEW Dynamite went off the air. And it wasn't the finish I think a lot of people wanted, but I think it was a very unique way to end Dynamite. And I think it was a good way to show that, hey, those two being Pac and Moxley, have great chemistry and had a good match here, but they can have a much, much better and much more entertaining match down the road. And that is everything, all the highlights from last week. And now we move to AEW Dynamite from this past Wednesday, October 30th, 2019. Moving swiftly along, we start out Hangman Page versus Sammy Guevara. Good start, good match. The commentary team really put over the idea of this. This was Sammy Guevara's loss to Hangman Page, was technically the first official loss of any Inner Circle member. So that was a good way to build heat for the match for the television audience. And as I said, Hangman Page won, and is headed towards Full Gear. Not necessarily sure who he's going to face there, or if he's going to even have a match on Full Gear, but we'll see what happens going forward. I don't have anything else really to say about this match. Sammy Guevara is awesome. He is very promising. I can't wait to see what happens with him going forward in the Inner Circle. I'm going to just briefly touch on the Hikaru Shida versus Shana match. It was great. Shida looked to rebound from her loss to Riho at All Out and did just that. She defeated Shana with a running knee strike. I don't have anything else to say about this. Both these women look great, and I'm excited to see them going forward. Next up, we had the Rock and Roll Express coming out to present the AEW Tag Team Championship belts before the championship match itself. But before they could do that, Santana and Ortiz of the Inner Circle attacked them, and this was really, really good way to build heat for Santana and Ortiz. Their new name being Proud and Powerful as just a tag team duo, but they are still part of the Inner Circle. This looked great. Young Bucks came down, made the save for Gibson and Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, and it was something that was needed for Santana and Ortiz. They needed something. We needed something to build heat for their characters. They were just Jericho's lackeys, which will work for a while as long as Jericho is champion, but after that they'll need something to build on going forward. And could this be a build towards a match between what was it they were called again, Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz, and the Rock and Roll Express at Full Gear? I don't know. I think it'd be fun, but I'm not 100% sure where I would see that one going, or if I want that to even happen. But I don't have anything else to say about that. Moving on, we had the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy in action. They defeated John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and QT Marshall. Not much happened here. It was a showcase for the Best Friends, and it was a fun little match with being a lot about, what was it, Rick and Morty. I haven't watched any of Rick and Morty, so I don't really know how to comment on that. This is one of the matches I didn't watch on this show, but I was watching whatever was on NXT at that point. But anyway, going forward, we had Cody and Jericho signing the contract for their Full Gear main event. This was a very WWE style contract signing, but at the same time it wasn't. These guys looked what was I gonna say? Sorry. I was putting together this match on 2K and I kind of got distracted. Jericho's jacket was... Only Jericho could pull off that jacket. Like, the jacket was hideously ugly, but Jericho somehow made it work just because he is the best. Like, anybody that disagrees that Jericho is the best right now, in terms of character work in wrestling, I would love to see who you're going to put above him. I don't think there's anybody that is better than him, especially in WWE. There's not. Maybe, like, The Fiend, but in terms of, like, good mix of humor and skill, the Jericho is miles ahead of The Fiend. The Fiend is not a humor, talking all the time, being put over by his words type of character. That's more of the Jericho thing. Anyway, getting back to the contract signing, there was no violence here. That was the only non-WWE angle here. There was no violence between Jericho and Cody. However, in the parking lot, Jake Hager was attacking Dustin Rhodes and slammed the car door on his arm. And I think this was a legit injury. I'm not 100% sure if it was legit or if it's just a kayfabe injury. I haven't looked super in-depth into it to figure that out yet. But after Dustin slammed the door, Cody and MJF ran out making the save and chased off the Inner Circle. Again, Jericho is just the best. Jericho is awesome. Fun little moment at the end there while Hager and the Inner Circle are admiring their handiwork on Rhodes, and Cody and MJF are attending to him. Jericho just lights a cigar before getting in the limo and leaving. Just a nice little touch that really just continues to put Jericho over as one of the best. Jericho's awesome. I love Jericho. Next up, we had the Elite versus Kip Sabian in the hybrid. This match, again, really fun match. Put over the Elite as they're the top guys and executive vice presidents for reasons, and they're going to win for those reasons. But even so, even though they are the execs, this was very back and forth, and they did earn every bit of this win. The only problem, I think, was, yes, they earned it, but nobody in the crowd really bit on the fact that Evans and Angelico really had a chance of winning, because they really didn't. If they had had a believable chance of winning, this match might have meant more. But other than that, I have no problem with this match. Good match. John Moxley came out next, Librarian Peter Avalon came out to a chorus of boos. He got ready to cut a promo, but Moxley came out of nowhere and hit the paradigm shift, and he only had a few things to say. I'm going to quote his promo here. I am the baddest son of a bitch in this cage. I am the sickest son of a bitch in this cage, and there isn't a person in the back that is going to prove me wrong. Be careful what you wish for. He said that last line in regards to, and in speaking directly to Kenny Omega there, in terms of their match at Full Gear. John ended the promo by saying that, asking everybody in the suits and the turnover executives to stay out of his way. This was amazing. John Moxley is the Dean Ambrose character itself in WWE was fine until he got to the last year of his run, where, yes, I know he was out for a while, injured, but the heel character was never booked right. A lot of scripting issues there, but this is the incarnation and the passion that we never got to see in WWE. We were deprived of, and boy, it's really coming out now, and it was awesome. Moxley was engaging. He was raw, intense, passionate. He put himself over as the most dangerous man in the company, which was 100% believable. And his match with Omega at Full Gear is going to be absolutely tremendous. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be a spot fest. It's going to be violent. And I think it's hard to tell which match I'm more looking forward to, that or the Jericho-Cody match. They're both going to be awesome, so I can't really say which is going to be the best match, which I'm looking forward to most. I think I'm looking forward to both of them equally. But again, Moxley is awesome, and I do think he deserves to beat Omega at Full Gear. I think he needs to beat Omega at Full Gear, just to continue building his character towards that eventual AEW championship run that he will get at some point. Right now, he doesn't need the title, but I think eventually he will get it, and I think at that point he will be ready for it. I don't think he's the man to dethrone Jericho. I don't think that should be a heel. I don't think a heel should beat Jericho. I think it should be a babyface, and I think maybe Kenny should beat Jericho eventually, but in terms of wins and losses, and if Moxley beats Kenny at Full Gear, then I'm not sure how that would go. But honestly, I don't know where they go in terms of contenders for Jericho after Cody, but we'll see how things shake out after Full Gear. That's where a lot of this will be determined. And the final thing I have to talk about for AEW was the main event for the AEW Tag Team Championships. It was SCU versus the Lucha Bros. And this match was hindered only slightly by the time constraints they had. It was towards the end of the show, and they had to fit everything in. This match, they couldn't end this match in a draw because it was crowning the first AEW Tag Champs, so they couldn't really end this in a draw. If they did, it would have been a draw that led to a match at Full Gear, which would have been a very on-the-nose WWE move that I think most people probably would have rejected in a sense, but even so, they did this match. They got through it. It was beautiful. It was high energy, full speed ahead the entire time. Pentagon and Phoenix were, again, just the best, showcasing that they are probably maybe the best tag team on AEW right now. That includes the Young Bucks. We've seen the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros have head-to-head matches against each other all the time. But I think Lucha Bros proved here that they deserved every bit of this main event. They deserved everything they got in this match, and they do deserve a tag team title run at some point, but they didn't get it here. Surprisingly, SCU defeated the Lucha Bros to win the AEW World Tag Team Championships. This was a finish that most people, I would think, didn't see coming. They really just saw the Lucha Bros going over in this match. But I think it's a great story, especially after the injury that was inflicted on Christopher Daniels before the tournament. So it had to be Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian fighting on their own without Christopher Daniels, and it was a great underdog story of them coming out and in support and fighting for Chris Daniels, and all in all winning the tag team championships for him. So great match to end off AEW, and we've got one more show next week, the go home show for Full Gear. Right now there's only 4 announced matches for that pay-per-view, and we'll see what gets announced, or if anything gets announced, I guess, on Dynamite this week. But other than that, that's all I have to say. AEW has been, honestly, I think, personally, I have preferred NXT overall in terms of the Wednesday Night War NXT versus AEW. I prefer NXT as a show overall, but AEW has had a lot of really fun matches and really cool segments and interactions that I've really enjoyed. And, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. But overall, AEW has been very consistent, very awesome. It sucks that their viewership numbers do keep going down, but I think they will kind of level out here really, really soon. I think they will start to level out in the hopefully 800,000, 900,000 range. They might have to go back up a little bit for that, but I think they will. I think they will continue to draw, and what I love to see them level out around the million mark, 1.1 million mark. Yes, I would, but I don't see that as realistic, especially considering how far they've dropped from that. Is it possible? Yes. Is that what I see coming next? No, I don't see that being what's coming. So, but there's a weird way to end the podcast. But other than that, that's all I have to say about AEW. If you enjoyed this review, overall grades, last week's episode with the semifinals and the Cody Jericho angle, I think gets an A from me, and then this week gets a very high B+. It was a great show. There were a couple things that were good matches, but were more filler than I think. I think last week's matches had more meaning behind them. This week did have the tag title match, but that was the only thing that really had significant meaning in terms of matches itself. But so A for last week, B+ for this week, and yeah, AEW has not dropped below a B+ mark for Dynamite yet. I don't foresee that happening at all. And there'll be A quality shows, and the big comparison between NXT and AEW is we're comparing 8 and 9 out of 10 shows versus an 8 and 9 out of 10 show. Like, these are both A to B to A shows every week, and picking out the negatives, we're almost just nitpicking every show at this point to find the bad, because there isn't much of it. It's mostly little things, character work, story building in NXT, and character work being the issue, and then in AEW, matches sometimes being a little long, sometimes being not necessary, being confusing. But overall, major criticisms about the shows have not been warranted yet. They haven't done anything to really make us worry about, this could be going in the wrong direction. Both NXT and AEW have been consistent, if not improving week on week, and I think that'll continue going forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you today. Again, if you enjoy it, hit the like button, subscribe down below, share with your friends, and I will be posting the links to my channel and this week's reviews on my Instagram and my Twitter page. Those links are in the About section of my channel if you want to follow me, and that's all I have. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in, and this is Caleb Henson, signing off.